Hello you guys and welcome to my channel. So today's video is a bunch of little story times that have to do with teaching swimming lessons. For those of you who don't know, I was a lifeguard for 5 years. I still am qualified to be a lifeguard. I am just a student right now, so I haven't worked in a year and a half. But I was a lifeguard for 5 years. I taught swimming lessons for probably 4 of those 5 years. So I have a lot of story times from those lessons, and I think I'm titling this The Truth About Teaching Swimming Lessons because a lot of people who don't teach them think it's really like fun and upbeat and cute, and no, it is the case sometimes, but definitely not all the time. So let's just go right into this video. So this is all of my notes for this video. So I'm going to be glancing at my phone from time to time. The first thing that happened, this is probably one of my first sets of swimming lessons, and obviously you're going to get the kids that don't listen to you, and that happens a lot, like quite frequently, and then their parents really don't do anything. But I had these 2 siblings in the same class. It was probably the last preschool class or the first swimmer class, so swimmer 1 or preschool 5 or something like that. And the sister got away and wouldn't listen. I was telling her, come back, you have to stay where you can touch, come back, like don't go further, don't do that, blah blah blah. Her brother would not let go of my arm, like would not let go of me. So when the sister started to panic and couldn't touch anymore, I basically had to yell at the brother to get off and then go and pick up this kid, and then I put her on a timeout because, like, listen and you wouldn't have to struggle like that. And so that's the only time that's probably like the most serious thing that's ever happened. But kids that don't listen and they run off all the time to the deeper water, but that's probably the most serious thing, and it probably doesn't even seem that serious, but like her brother wouldn't let go. I'm watching this kid panic because she can't touch anymore, and in the moment it was quite serious. So the next one actually happened the last summer I worked, and the last summer I taught swimming lessons, and there was a little boy who was put in swimmer 2. He was put in swimmer 2 because the grandma who enrolled him claimed that he had passed swimmer 1, but swimmer 2, we were in the first lane of the middle section of our pool. So we have a shallow end and then a main section where it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and then the deep end. We were in the first lane, like we were right beside the shallow end. He could hardly touch. He had to stand right beside the wall, which not his fault, it's his height, but he could not swim. He should have been put in a preschool class. Like, he could not swim at all. Like, he shouldn't even pass swimmer 1. If he did pass it, he shouldn't have, but he was struggling really, really hard, and he couldn't do anything alone. So when you're in swimmer 2, you have to swim, like, I can't remember the exact distance, but I think it's 15 meters. You have to swim without touching the bottom, without any support, and without an aid. So without a person helping you, without a flutterboard or a noodle, and you can't touch the ground. And he couldn't swim 2 feet that way. So he was struggling a lot. So I grabbed his arm and told him he had to stay where he could touch. After I did that, his grandma came up to me during the swimming lesson, like I am busy teaching, and the grandma comes up to me and says, I think he's just a little panicked because he's never been in this section of the pool before. And I was nice to the grandma, obviously, but at the same time, I had to be like blunt and straightforward. I had kids who were 5 feet tall and couldn't do anything in the shallow end because it was too shallow. So I couldn't move my entire class for this one kid who just couldn't swim, because the deepness of the water wasn't the issue, it was his swimming skills that was the issue. And so the grandma was basically just said okay, was kind of moody about it, and then talked to me after again, and the kid, this boy, got put down into the swimmer 1. So he was repeating swimmer 1. I don't think he ever took swimmer 1, or he never passed swimmer 1, and he ended up failing swimmer 1 anyway. So he should have never been in my swimmer 2 class to begin with. Okay, so this, I'm gonna have to read right off of my phone to, because this one is a long one. Not really a long one, but has a lot to it. So I'm just gonna be reading right off of my phone, I'm sorry. I taught 3 classes in this set of lessons. I taught Pre-4, Swim 6, and Swim 2. On report card day, all three had an awkward situation. So the last day of swim lessons, we do hand out report cards. It's kind of like school. We grade them. We give them check marks of the stuff that they completed and highlight the stuff they need to work on in order to pass the class. So pre-4, I had two kids who were, one was 5 and one was 7, and the 7-year-old actually failed. And they took their report cards and started walking away together. They became really good friends because there was only the two of them in the class. And they both came back, and then the 5-year-old who passed said that the other girl, the 7-year-old, didn't get a badge, because you also get a badge or a sticker depending on the level. And I'm like, sweetie, you have to complete a few more things before you can get your badge. And she gets sad, and then they start walking away again. My swim 6 class had 6 kids, so that's the max you can have in a class without a helper. And 3 kids passed and 2 failed. And 2 that failed were friends with the 3 that passed before the class started, and 2 twins passed and 3 friends failed. And the one twin said, I passed, really happy, and then a boy who didn't pass said, I failed, kind of sarcastically. And then that same boy asked the other twin if he passed, and he's like, yeah, sorry. And then the boy who failed asked me why he didn't pass, and I said, you have to finish a few more things before you can pass, and he's like, okay, and then walked away. And the last class, only 1 out of the 5 failed. So the swimmer 2 class, only 1 out of the 5 people in the class had failed, which is really good for a class. If you pass every single person in all of your classes, then you're doing something wrong. So yeah, anyway, 1 out of 5 failed, and the one that failed wanted me to catch him at the bottom of the slide. It was swimmer 2, and most of these kids were going into grade 3, so they're like 10 years old. So I was like, okay, like, I will, but like, that's awkward. Like, obviously there's a reason why you're not passing when you can't even exit a water slide when you're 10. I don't know. Surprisingly, he's not the only one like that, though. A lot of kids are scared of water slides, but when you're 10 years old, you either sit out, because a lot of them who are scared of them just don't go on them. You either sit out or you go down by yourself, type of thing. So I just thought that was a little weird. Okay, so the last one was a boy who was severely, I can't say that enough, scared of the water. So the first day of classes, he wouldn't even put his toes in. He basically just bawled at what we call the beach. It's like where the water brushes up, like it's like a beach, but it's like normal flooring, not sand. Anyway, he would not go into the water. He just bawled at the shore. I don't know how to describe it if you don't know the pool, but like, it's literally like a beach. We have like a landing where the water like... Anyway, he was still on the deck and he was just bawling. And so it was, I believe it was swimmer 1 and swimmer 2, and they still have to put their life jackets on for some things. So we had life jackets on, or they had life jackets on. I didn't, but they had their life jackets on, and this little boy started to panic, saying he couldn't breathe because the life jacket was too tight. The life jacket was way too big on him, but I loosened it anyway, and then he continued to panic. He just didn't want to go back in the water is what I'm getting at, but like making a big deal about it. And then he gets scared. He wouldn't jump. Like, hey, English, I'm sorry. At the beginning of the class, the lessons, because there's like 6 or 8. Yeah, there was 6 or 8 lessons in a lesson. So I don't know how to describe this properly. The first lesson out of 8, he would not jump in with a life jacket. By the end of the class, he actually did. So he did improve a lot, but not enough to pass, unfortunately. But he would not jump in with a life jacket. He wouldn't open his eyes under the water without goggles. And so one of the activities that I do for the kids to open their eyes under the waters is we have these hockey pucks that we throw across the shallow end, and then we tell the kids to go and pick up. Like, say there's 5 kids in the class, I would throw 10, and I would tell the kids, go pick up 2 pucks. It's the shallow end, they're not allowed the goggles. so they would have to open their eyes to be able to pick up the puck up. This little boy refused to open his eyes without goggles to begin with. He refused to go and pick up the pucks because, and I quote, "I'm going to die, I just know it." I get you're scared of water, buddy, but like, I'm right here. I'm not gonna let you die. You're gonna be fine. I can be right beside you. Don't worry. Like, I tried to reassure him, but like in that type of situation, I just didn't know what to do anymore. So I was like, okay, buddy, you can sit on the edge if you want. Like I just didn't know what to do. I wanted to include him, but I didn't want to push him too far, and I had like other kids in the class that I had to worry about as well. Like, oh, it's just a lot. One thing that at the time it was really annoying, now it's just kind of funny. One of the other little boys who was younger than him was trying to console him and to comfort him, and was like patting his back and saying, it's okay, you don't have to. Like, he was just being super sweet. And before this incident happened, I'll get into it, but before it happened I was like, oh my god, that's so cute, like they're best friends, like he's so adorable. This kid that was scared of water snapped on him, told him not to touch me, don't touch me, don't this, and I was like I didn't know what to do, because then the boy who was trying to comfort him was like hurt and upset and like confused, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like just like let's just leave him alone, like I didn't know what to do. It's like, this is definitely the most difficult kid I had to deal with during lessons, and like it's sad because it wasn't even his fault, like he was just scared of the water. And so the last two things is again about this same little boy. We had to jump off into the middle section of the pool, like I explained earlier. Shallow, like, gets deeper. English, shallow gets deeper, deep end. We were in the middle section, so it gets deeper, but we were still right beside the shallow end, and he refused to jump off because he said he couldn't touch. This was a very tall little boy. He could have touched in the middle of the pool, and we were right here. And he would not jump off the ledge because he could not touch. So that was another frustrating thing. And then whenever kids complain too much in my class, I would always be like, well, you just have to do it to get the mark or you're not going to pass the class. Like, it's kind of threatening, but it's kind of like motivation, like just do it, get it over with, and then we can move on. He's like, I don't want the mark, I want to fail. I was just like, I was like flabbergasted. I don't even know what flabbergasted means, but man, I was just like, why are you here then? Like, obviously his parents, or I believe it was his grandma who enrolled him, somebody wanted him to learn how to swim, to be at least a little bit comfortable with the water. And thankfully the story does have a good ending. All this struggle and all this I don't know, like his pain and my struggle of trying to help him worked out for the better, because he was so much more confident in the water at the end of the lessons. He did not pass, unfortunately, but just seeing his improvement and him becoming more comfortable in the water was a pass for him and his grandma. Like, they were just happy that he was happy to go swimming. And I found it really cute. His grandma would take him swimming to public swimming to practice his stuff, because like she knew from the beginning, and she told me from the beginning, like, I don't expect him to pass, like he's just scared of water. So yeah, so it does have a good ending. He didn't pass, but he was a lot more comfortable, which is always what lessons are basically for, is so that to prevent drowning and stuff like that. So yeah, that is my story times of some interesting swim lesson experiences. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I post videos every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.